So my first aha moment that something was wrong in the way in which I was studying languages was in 1999 when I was preparing, no, sorry, actually 1998, when I was preparing for the test of English as a foreign language, because I had in that time decided as a young professional having been working already for some years, I was 23 at the time. I had decided to actually move to London and to study part-time there because I was interested in social psychology and I wanted to do that next to working. I have at that time I was working as a management consultant, and my area actually brought me brought me more and more towards social psychology in terms of the actual projects I was working on. And of course, my dream was to finally become fluent. And I had this aha moment in terms of this cannot carry on like this. I was totally I was like getting really suspicious of the conventional system of learning language. And stick around in this video. I want to share this with you because my aim is on this channel that you will not go through the same and that you can be fluent in far less time. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex. I'm a professional language coach, I'm a social psychologist, and I'm a polyglot. I speak 4 languages fluently, and I'm currently learning Italian, my 5th language. And my aim on this channel is to have you speak with unshakable confidence in as little time as possible. Now, this aha moment I had was actually in the phase when I was preparing to move over to the UK from Germany, and when I prepared for this test of English as a foreign language, which is similar to the test of English for international communication. The latter is used more for businesses. The first one is more for academic study. I had applied for a part-time course at the London School of Economics at the time. I was quite excited and I needed to talk to somebody who could help me in terms of how to succeed in this test. And also my aim was to be able to speak. My dream was to become fluent in English. And so I actually had found out through some friends of friends to meet 2 people. It was actually a couple at the time who had passed this test already because they studied actually in Germany, but they were doing courses in English. So I invited them for a coffee and I said, listen, you need to share with me, what do I need to know? What do I need to do to prepare for these exams and to succeed like you in that test? And for me at the time, I thought this test was the guarantee for being able to speak. So I went to that cafe meeting with the expectation that I will meet 2 people who speak fluently in English. And I wanted to be kind of inspired and impressed by them because half a year later, I would move to the UK, and I felt at the time, I felt kind of like, oh my God, how will I be able to get along with the people? Because at the time, I had studied 10 years of English in school, but I was not able to speak. I kind of hesitated. I kind of looked for words. When somebody asked me something, I didn't know how to ask for, could you speak a bit slower, please? I'm still learning the language. All these sentences I didn't have ready. And so I went to this meeting and I remember them actually it was a nice meeting. We had coffee together. We actually, oh yes, important detail. We went to an Irish pub, actually. That was my idea, having coffee in an Irish pub. Yeah, I know. But anyway, I said, listen, let's be in an English spoken environment because this is something to get tuned in, right? Looking for a situation where you can speak English. So they were like, "Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, let's do that anyway." So we met there, and then when we went to the bar to order, the barman said with an Irish accent, "What would you like to order?" And both of them kind of froze, first of all, and then they answered in German. And I was like, why do they do that? They already must be fluent. So when we went to our table, And we had ordered and everything, and the whole conversation then switched to German. That was quite weird. I asked them, so why did you not answer directly? Because I said, you must be fluent in English. And they were like, no, 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 we're actually not. We understand everything, but it's still quite hard for us to answer. And I'm like, but you have the TOEFL, you have the TOEFL, the test of English as a foreign language, so you must be fluent. And they were like, no, actually, this test doesn't actually test for speaking. I was like, oh, really? That has changed, by the way. In the meantime, this test has a section of speaking ability. At the time, there were lots of grammar exercises, there were lots of written, listening and writing practices, but there was not one section to actually talk. And I was like, oh, so that means you can be a successful student of English without being able to speak. So I was like, that was my big moment of realizing there's something wrong in the system. There's something wrong in the way in which we measure success in language learning. Because all of a sudden, for me, this test was not. I mean, of course, I needed it to be able to be accepted for that master's course that I was applying for. But I was like, oh, so this test doesn't help me at all. I mean, in my aim to become fluent, it doesn't measure fluency. So for me, fluency actually was this kind of confidence of being able to get along with people who speak fluently in the language in any kind of situation. That was fluency. And to have that confidence as well, that personality in this new language. But it didn't seem to be measured in that system of mastering a language. However, when I then later did that test, I realized what was being measured. It was the same things that were measured in the school system, which was how many, exam type questions for certain grammar exercises in terms of past tense, future tense, conjugations, adjectives, and so on and so forth. How much of that did you master? So the focus was on the system of grammar. And I mean, the problem obviously is not that there is grammar, but what I now, going back to now the present, 2025, what is completely not okay for the aim of fluency is that the number one focus is on grammar. Grammar needs to be there, yes, but not as a number one focus. It needs to be a third priority that comes in whenever you need to know the system of the language, but always the first priority needs to be on your focus on your real life, what you need to communicate. So rather than focusing overly on measuring yourself and actually also putting your objectives in terms of how much grammar you have digested and learned, that order needs to be changed around to say how many situations in your everyday life can you express already in the new target language. So the order needs to change altogether. And what I learned from then on as well, and that was actually this aha moment, was actually the beginning of my thinking process of, okay, I need to change the method of learning. From that moment on, I realized what I need to put first is what I want to communicate. So which sentences do I need for a certain social situation? And for those of you who have seen my previous videos, in that order as well is the Everyday Nano method that actually privileges, first of all, thinking, okay, what do I need to communicate? What is meaningful in my real life? And then you bring in, if you don't know, for example, how to form a certain construction sentence, for example, in English, the ing form, then you bring in the grammar, but only if you need it for a certain meaningful situation in your real life. And I want to also bring in the important 4 factors of how our brain memorizes quicker. As I've said previously, I mean, all of the things I say is backed by social psychology. But what I want to bring in today is neuroscience. There's 4 things that actually make us learn quicker or memorize quicker. Our brain switches to most important memory mode when, number 1, when there's something that is new, a new experience, that one switches on our brain. Then the second one is something that is repeated. something that occurs in your everyday life every time again. But the third and the fourth one, they are the important ones. The third one is attribution. So whenever something is attributed to a meaning in your real life, so something kind of that you say has a really important meaning to your real life, then it is memorized quicker. And the last one is the important one. If there goes a feeling or an emotion with it, then you can be sure you won't forget what you have just said. So what does this mean translated to social psychology? So the actual explanation for how we interact in social life. Whenever you have something that you need to make sense of, or like a social situation that you need to make sense of to either get by or to figure out how to say and express whatever you want to do in the new language, this one will be really kind of ranked high in your brain's memory. And that is the attribution principle. And whenever you have a feeling involved, then you will be sure as well that it will be anchored really well. So the feeling comes in when you have social interactions, real social interactions in the new language. So what does that mean, and how does the Everyday Nano method apply that? Well, first principle is clear. You know that Everyday Nano means every day you practice, you repeat 5 minutes per day, and it needs to be ideally something new. And this is the first two principles, so the repetition and the fact that it's new. And the third one and the fourth one actually comes in by changing around the order, so that you first of all always start with something meaningful to your real life. And you don't look far. You either go to the last situation you lived through or to the next one you will have. So for example, today, the last one that I had was an English course I gave. And I asked myself after the lesson, okay, I said this sentence of, I will prepare you the document and I will send it by email. And then you ask yourself, how would you say the same thing in the new language? So I actually, and that was part of my 5 minutes per day, I wrote down this sentence in Italian. And that is the practice. You need to kind of map your real life onto the new target language to have sentences for real situation. Then you have the meaning principle. So the attribution, so it attributes what you have learned to your real life, to an experience. And the fourth one, you can actually ensure if you then use that principle of looking for the last or the next situation by actually talking to somebody, by having a social interaction, because in any social interaction, you feel something. I mean, you probably have noticed with any conversation you have, with any interaction, with any phone call, with any, like even a YouTube video that you watch, whenever you encounter another human being, or another being actually, can be an animal or a plant, you will feel something. And that feeling anchors this experience where you express something in a language into your meaningful brain or into your emotional brain, which actually things that you know that for you were really important at the time, it will be memorized. So for me, the quickest then I learned was 6 months later, when I then had moved to London, and when I started to have every day those little nano situations where I had to get by in English and where it was important to have sentences ready. Actually, at this time, I really realized it didn't matter anymore how the tense that I was using was called or how to be able to recite a conjugation table. That didn't matter. I just had to know in a situation like going to a local market or like doing some administrative interview or like meeting. I had to know how to formulate questions. I had to know how to formulate answers. And these sentences stuck to my brain. So whenever I had similar experiences with similar emotional memories, I would just know them because they got anchored in my experience brain, in the part of the brain that actually helps us to survive. And that is how a human being works, because you need language to and social communication to survive and get by. Of course, surviving is like a very extreme term, but this is how social interaction can be paraphrased. It's all those habits and communication skills that you develop as a social being in order to function in this world and to have a happy life or to have a purposeful life. It depends on your outlook on life, obviously. So let me know if you have had similar experiences, and apart from this kind of thing that I think probably when you watch this channel, you know already that the traditional method that puts grammar first doesn't accelerate your fluency. Apart from that, drop me a comment what for you was the biggest moment when you realized you had to switch the study routine. And for those of you who are new here, don't forget to download your perfect study routine planner that actually summarizes the Everyday Nano method and gives you tips to actually find yourself quickly a personalized, ideal study routine. So thanks so much for spending this time with me today, and join me in my next video.